Welcome to Dreamers to Leaders, Keeping It Real with Melody podcast. Melody is a born dreamer who started from being a flight attendant and worked her way up into now a tech fashion trendsetter, thought leader, and seasoned entrepreneur in multiple successful ventures. This podcast is for the awakened dreamer. Industry icons will share their humble beginnings up to the leaders they are today. Let's all learn and be inspired. Together, we can all prosper.
Hello and welcome to the Dreamers to Leaders podcast. It's the podcast for the dreamers, more importantly, the doers. I'm your host, Melody. If you're one of those who are interested to learn more about innovation and startups, this episode is for you. Joining us here today is the founder and CEO of Planos.ai. It is a company that broadcasts or that has a broadcasting system that converts car windows into HD digital display. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome David Valverde. Hi, David. How are you?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for gracing the show. All right, so let's start. If you could share with our audience a backstory on your company, Pranos.
Right. So, I don't even know where to start, but it's been, about a year and a half since we started Pranos, but it's kind of been a longer story than that, but we're essentially converting car windows into digital displays for consumers. And, we actually initially started in Silicon Valley, and, we just all of a sudden got attention worldwide for our product. So we decided to create a consumer product out of it. So that's where we're at today.
Did you say a year and a half? It only took you a year and a half to launch it, or from inception?
Well, it's been about 3 years, but yeah, it's been about a year and a half of development for the consumer product. So
just a year and a half. That's remarkable, David. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just the first version of our product too. So this is just our first version, and we have a lot of other products in the roadmap as well.
Yes, and for our audience out there, though this is a podcast, if you go to our YouTube channel, you'll see the video and the clips of this amazing technology. Why Pranos? How did you come about with that name? Initially, it sounded like a Marvel comic superhero, right? But why Planos?
Right. Well, actually, I usually don't share this backstory, but I'll go ahead. So basically, Pranos is a made-up name, and it just sounded right. When thinking of a name, we wanted it to pass the radio check. So 2 syllables and something that's easy to spell. So Pranos is kind of suitable, and initially it was Pranas, so like the Hindu chakras. Pranas with an A. And that's, basically the name derived from Pranas and then turned into Pranos. We just felt it sounded right. So. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it has that a good ring to it. So if I have an 8-year-old, if you're going to share with an 8-year-old how your technology works, how would you share that?
Got it. So, the first step is to download our app, our consumer app, that's currently in development. It's not in the App Store just yet. But once you download the app, once you purchase our hardware, you install it yourself, you download the app, and then you basically can screen share anything, any video, any content you have on your phone directly from your phone to our display, similar to how AirPlay works. And
so from the app to your car window, right? How does that work? How will it communicate?
Well, so essentially we're using Bluetooth technology. So our hardware module connects to the app, and we basically screen share any content and mirrors it to the window. So basically there's been a lot of case studies and research we've done around this, and it's also based off of consumer preferences. They've all kind of wanted a platform that any consumer could control, right? And people wanted to, so we're basically creating a new communication channel that allows for people to broadcast any content they like, any message they like, maybe they want to broadcast their business, or maybe they want to, and then also we're rolling out phase 3, which will allow for ad revenue to come through programmatic advertising. And that's when you're going to be able to monetize. But that's going to be phase 3 of our launch. Currently, we're in phase 1. So it's mostly going to be used for, TikTok videos, political messages, brands using it at conferences, and just people wanting to use it because it's just this new flashy device, right? So that's kind of the market that we're initially going to target.
And how did you come about with this idea, David?
Yeah, so we wanted to basically create a channel that was decentralized and that allowed for people to communicate. And we also made it a consumer product because we want to hit ubiquitous scale worldwide. I mean, we've gotten messages from basically every continent already, where people just want to use it. They want to buy it. They want to maybe buy it to monetize their fleets, whether it's a taxi fleet or public transportation authorities. So there's just so many use cases. So we decided to just manufacture these displays to be used for a broad array of applications. So the idea kind of came from discovering and understanding that, and building a product that's affordable, that's turnkey, and that allows for freedom of expression. So really, I guess the product, really, we kind of first kind of dove into the market, discovered the market, and then we kind of created the product after that, after kind of realizing all these things. But initially, and I'll kind of touch on this a bit, we actually went through a Y-Combinator with Grabb-it, YCS18, and we're basically also converting windows and digital displays, but we're selling ads. And we're basically leasing these equipments to everyday drivers, DoorDash drivers, and then we were selling ads. And that model was, and I was a co-owner of that company, and that model was not sustainable. And we ran out of runway, and we had to shut it down because we had artists in Hollywood that wanted to purchase it, like DJ Khaled. Lady Gaga wants to do something with us next month. And then we just kind of realized that this is more than just a performance vehicle for advertisements, like a digital taxi topper. We realized that this is just a new mean and mode of communication. So it was just bigger than we realized. So we kind of became more of a broad platform that's consumer facing. Hopefully that wasn't too much of a rant.
So is there anything remotely close to what you have right now? So who is your major competitor? Yeah,
and that's a great question, right? So we're relatively new, and that's one of the reasons why we've talked to so many different entrepreneurs, investors worldwide and internationally. It resonates. As far as competitors, billboard companies, of course, the inventory is just 400,000 billboards across the United States. So, and it's also B2B focused. Digital taxi toppers, I guess. So out-of-home as far as out-of-home advertisement is concerned, bus shelters, billboards, digital taxi toppers, just a sign on a tree. But we're not just advertising, right? We're a means of communication. That's what we build it for consumers, and it's consumer generated. So it's not a company that's running ads all day long. Now we're just giving it to everyday people who are, now the shift of consumer generated content is so huge. We're not giving them a publishing platform that allows them to expand that message. So that's the exciting part. And that's why it's hard. It's kind of like oranges and apples to compare us to those digital taxi toppers on taxis, because all they do is run ads. We're allowing people to just drive by and run whatever content they like, maybe a caravan or advertising, like outside of a conference. So, I mean, I could talk about use cases for days, but I like to think there's no competitors, but that's also very naive to say because there's always competitors. But as far as creating a system that converts windows and digital displays that are ran by consumers, I don't think there's anything like that today. So that's exciting for us.
So in terms of ads, are you planning to add that in your menu of service to create ads as well?
Yeah. Well, advertisements, of course, that's what runs all these free services, right? Like Facebook, Google. I mean, we're basically selling our data in exchange for a free service, right? Or free service. But what I'm really what we're doing here is we're not really rolling out the advertising platform just yet. Although if you buy, let's say you're a real estate agent, you buy a unit, you cover all your 3 windows with our units, and you run a real estate campaign, with your brand or your small business. But in phase 3, we're going to be rolling out programmatic advertisements, which are going to be generated through geo-targeted advertising. And it's basically similar to DoubleClick in Google. So basically, depending on your driving patterns, whether you're a DoorDash driver and you drive 80 hours a week, or you just a driver, a very regular driver that commutes to work and drives maybe 6 hours a week, you can basically opt into our grid, and basically at that point you connect to our cloud and we feed you ads depending on your driving patterns, where you are geographically, and that's a partnership we have with a third-party trade desk. But we're not going to be rolling that out just yet because we're still developing that part of it. And also, we need to hit scale first. Before we hit phase 3, we need to reach, a few thousand, a few hundred cars per metropolitan area, right? It won't make sense to an advertiser if you don't have a few thousand cars. So that's what we're rolling out to consumers first and letting them decide if they want to monetize the drives.
So David, so as it becomes mainstream, that's the goal, right? And as you reach scale, what is it that you want the public to know? If they hear Pranos, the company,
yeah.
What do you want them to think of? So is it like, oh, Pranos, yes, it's like a computer, or it's a TV monitor, a projector. What would be the easiest one line to say Pranos equals this?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I think we would like them to see us as a new communication mode that allows you to express yourself freely, truly freely, and also a mode that it's not like Facebook, right? That, you have to build a following, or a website where you can't really run ads until you build a following. This is a platform that you can monetize as soon as you purchase it, because there's people outside all day long, right? You have an audience right away because you're driving in front of it. So just letting people to see it as, and I guess I'll touch on this as well too, real quick. Just having it be, instead of seeing AI displacing you, is owning a piece of AI and allowing it to work for you and make money for you. So that's how, I guess, ideally that's the goal. I love for people to see it that way.
Owning a piece of AI. That's really interesting. So let's talk about that. They say, I think it was a Forbes article that was published, was it recently, where it basically says in 2030, artificial intelligence will contribute around 15 trillion in world economy. So that's huge. But on the other hand, from Elon Musk to Steve Wozniak to Bill Gates, they're saying that it could be very detrimental to the human race if left to irresponsible hands, this artificial intelligence. What do you say? What's your swing? What's your take on that?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And we actually, when we first talked about this, we're in a boardroom with JP Morgan, who actually banks for us. And, we were talking to some of the investment bankers there, and we were kind of telling them about they asked us this particular question. And what's interesting about that is that we kind of envision AI because there will be a lot of displacement in the workforce. And we basically are allowing people to buy a system that generates money for you, and you can basically earn passive income just by owning this piece of hardware. And instead of seeing AI as something that's going to take your job, we're giving people the opportunity to own this piece of AI and allow it to work for you, right? So, and I think that's how we should envision it, because there will be displacement. A lot of jobs will be automated by so many different types of automated workflows and flows. And that's why we're building a consumer product that, really the vision is eventually there will be autonomous vehicles. So you can purchase an autonomous vehicle that's covered with our technology that runs ads. It goes off, you deploy it in the morning, goes off and drops people off. It drives people around like through Uber and Lyft. You own the vehicle, so you keep the upside, and it also runs ads, so you keep the upside from the advertisement. So, that's the vision, 10, 15, 20 years from now, right? And then you can just spend time at your house in the comfort of your home, and you made this investment that makes money. It works for you, right? So we should see AI from that front. And the problem is, I think a lot of there is problems with it, but I think a lot of those ideologies are coming from, corporations completely automating their manufacturing process, and displaces, a huge number of their workforce. And then you have, just this super high unemployment rate throughout the country. And I think that's a big problem right there.
So David, for our listeners who are investors out there, what do you say to them about your company? What's your elevator pitch on your company to any investor?
Yeah. So, the interesting thing is we're actually listed on WeFunder currently. And, our vision has always been, we've talked to many venture capitalists, institutional investors that are very interested, a lot of corporate VCs as well. We've talked to most of the automotive manufacturers as well. But a lot of the terms and the deals that they've offered us just don't make sense to us. And we've always wanted to basically, we build this for the people. We're not building this for advertising agencies. We're not building these for these corporate companies. We're building these for everyday people. And that's why what's interesting is through the new SEC regulations, we're filing with SEC, and now we are doing a Reg CF public offering via WeFunder. And we've already started to raise a lot of money in the last few days, and we're still private. We haven't even publicly launched it on the website. But people, and these are just retail investors, right? And maybe some institutionals as well, but these are just, like I said, you don't have to be an accredited investor to buy shares of Pranos right now. Mm-hmm. So it's, I guess to summarize it, we are funded by the people, and this is for the people. There's a platform for the people. And I think really the elevator pitch is, we're creating a decentralized platform and communication means that is truly decentralized. And and that hopefully is loved by everyday people, not just the corporations. So that's my elevator pitch. And if you want to learn more, go on our WeFunder page. And we are currently doing an early bird round, and it's going away quick. So
most of your funding is from WeFunder?
Say that again?
So most of the fundings that you have received is through that platform, the WeFunder?
Right. So we've done some financing as well from before that, but I really can't disclose too much of that. It's not public information. But as far as what's in the public domain, our first financing round is through WeFunder. Mm-hmm. And it was done that way strategically because we want people to keep like I said, I'm not just saying this for PR purposes or because I'm supposed to say this. We really truly believe that, everyday people should get the opportunity to buy stock in private companies and follow our journey, right? Not just public companies or not just accredited institutional investors in Silicon Valley that can keep this huge upside. So that's why what's going on with WeFunder is amazing. I mean, 2 weeks ago, they the new ruling completely changed the landscape. So.
And I think you're on the right track there because I think that's really the trend. In today's world, today's consumer, they really want freedom more so than any other era. I think freedom of expression, from the TikToks to all the social media platforms out there. That's everyone. Yeah. It's not a celebrity that are out there expressing themselves, right? So that's the trend. Plus, so from the TikTok to the social media, deregulation also of currencies and whatnot. That's where a lot of people are kind of putting their money or their heads into. So let's talk about you as an innovator, David.
Thank you for that.
What has been who inspired you, or what inspired you to be an innovator?
Okay. Well, an innovator is such a relative term, but I guess, I like to think that, we're at least, we like to be a net positive for the world and create something that's of value for society. But, as far as motivators and how I got here, I never really, I knew, I had big dreams like every other kid in the world. I just think that really the biggest thing was just a lot of life experiences, and really, whether negative or positive, and allowing them to, and I turned them into positive. So there was a lot of negative things in that moment. In the moment, I thought they were negative, and I used them as catalysts or a fire within me that allowed me to kind of transcend those negative situations and turning them into experiences, and just, I guess, log into a fire, and just becoming an entrepreneur.
Is it a particular teacher? Is it a particular entrepreneur that kind of inspired you to kind of get into this route? Yeah,
well, no one that's living and no one that's currently an entrepreneur. Aristotle, Euclid, all these old philosophers, ancient philosophers that allow me to realize a lot of human potential. And it's a lot of this forgotten knowledge, and realizing that this internal strength that you can find, but sometimes it takes a lot of solitude. It takes years to kind of realize what it means to you.
I agree with you with regards to innovation as a journey, where, as they say, creativity is the idea, is creating the idea, and innovation is the doing of the idea. And so with that journey, what has been your biggest challenge?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I think there's always personal challenges. I think for me, it's always been, from the beginning, it's being younger, because like I said, most of my team is older than me, more senior than me. My executive C-suite is older than me, and that was done on purpose because I like to surround myself with, real executives that I can learn from. So it's always, and everyone, all the executives from other companies that I talk to are always older and more senior, investors. So really, it's just always, I don't really talk to or hang out with people my age, and it's just because of my situation. But I guess trying to
overcoming the age barrier, you think?
Well, I think there's younger entrepreneurs, like look at Zuckerberg. He became a billionaire at like 22. So I'm sure he had to deal with it. And it's happening all the time in Silicon Valley with entrepreneurs that are not as popular, but it's possible. And it's very accepted in Silicon Valley. But sometimes, they see you as this young kid, and you are a young kid. But I think one of the biggest things for any young entrepreneur out there is to try to surround yourself with people that are more experienced than you, and try to basically fit those gaps on your wall with your weaknesses. Right? For me, it was, I'm still learning so many different things. So I think that was a challenge. And it is a challenge, but I've come to terms with it. And I think of my naivete and being naive and just not knowing a lot is really what causes disruption a lot of times, because you're naive.
That's a good point. And I think that naivete could could also be a plus, because that would start also your curiosity and you're not jaded, right? So it's always a double-edged sword with that. Now, let's talk about some tips. What would you, in a few words, what would be your tips to those that are seeking funding? Where would you direct them if they ask you that question?
I was actually thinking about that just yesterday, and it's interesting because I think it's a long journey when it comes to actually receiving it's institutional funds or an angel round or going through a crowdfunding platform. There's so much information out there that it can become really overwhelming. I think one of the easiest things to do is try to go to a startup accelerator and kind of learn. A lot of these startup accelerators have good advisors and will give you information that's actually real and good. And I think entrepreneurship has been glamorized way too much as well. I mean, it's not what people think. It's not as fun as you think. It's really hell and back.
The accelerator. So you think going through like an accelerator lab or, so for funding, you think what would be the first step? Okay. So, Joe, you want some funding? From my experience, this would be the first thing that you go to. So what would be the first, you think? Yeah,
well, I mean, first is, what is it you're trying to build, a service or product, obviously put a deck together, try to find a co-founder that, complements you, kind of try to be real introspective about what your actual strengths are. And then whatever your weaknesses are, try to find someone that can, compensate for that. And then try to apply to accelerators. That may not be, those are very competitive as well. And if you don't get into those, try to find advisors and then just give them equity in exchange, maybe a point or 2 points in exchange for sometimes a little less, maybe half a point, for their advice. And you believe it or not, you can literally cold email or reach out to a big time name. And a lot of times these people that you think are really up there are just happy to really give advice and help out and be an advisor, and give them, because they're pushing it forward. So I recommend doing that. And another huge thing is don't overvalue your company. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they come in, they think they have the biggest idea in the world, and you may have the biggest idea in the world, but you got to either create a valuation model or, you have to have the right comparables. You have to understand the market. And if you're in the seed stage or angel stage, you really want to, some people come out and they try to value a company at 40 mil, 100 mil, and they expect to raise 3-4 mil on that valuation. And it's just, you're going to look silly. You're going to look green and you're not going to get investments. You got to be realistic and bring that valuation down. And you're going to be giving a lot of equity up front, but if you want to make it happen, you got to do that. And if you want to attract the right talent, you've got to be generous with your equity as well. So, and when it comes to co-founder discussions, that's another big thing.
I think that's a very valuable recommendation. David. Yeah, for sharing that. And in any organization, nothing happens until someone sells something. Would you agree? So in terms of like sales and marketing strategy, what has been effective for your company?
Yeah, so we're actually just still in development stage. So we're actually pre-revenue. So just like what you just said, we're able to raise funds pre-revenue, but due through our patent portfolio or team or execution strategy, just our domain know-how. So we were able to raise at a very high valuation. But what I'm really trying to say is, to kind of touch on that point, yes, you do need recurring revenue if you want to get institutional investors, ideally, right?
So where are you now? Where are you now with regards to having your, so let's say I like the product and I want to purchase it. Right. Where are we now on that stage of a consumer clicking a button, putting it in the cart and it being delivered? Where are we?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're actually accepting pre-orders right now on our Pranos website, Pranos.ai. So currently we have so many different, we have the Dubai Road and Transport Authority that that wants to put in all their taxis. And we have these massive deals that are just in our wait list. So right now, you would just be pre-ordering the product. Our supply chain starts in actually we're a hardware play, so and to build what we're doing and to still be able to retail at $600, it's been a huge challenge, but it's also we've been able to do it because our supply chain starts in China. So, I spent about 6 months in China, made great relationships with the manufacturers there, and really just became like them. I love China, and we were able.
Do you speak the language now? And how is it with the whole Wuhan, crisis and whatnot? With the COVID, how was traveling there? Have you been recently?
So I spent time in China before COVID. It was about a year before COVID. And so, yeah, to answer your question, to keep it concise, we were able to drop our costs from, all these off-the-shelf components because we're creating, there's some hardware involved, there's software involved, and it can be costly if you manufacture here. It's just a reality.
Let's wrap it up. So for our audience who want to support you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so just go to our website, PRANOS.ai, and you can find us there. My email is david@PRANOS.ai, and then WeFunder. Feel free to go on WeFunder and look up Pranos and check it out. I'm sure the page will do a lot better job than me talking about it, because I could talk about it for years. It's a bit more concise on the WeFunder page. Feel free to check it out and see if it resonates with you.
You got it. I think you have a remarkable idea there, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of traction sooner versus later. Thank you, David, for gracing the show.
No, thank you so much, and it's been fun talking to you.
Wonderful. So for all the dreamers out there, keep believing. You got this. Till next time.